4 tips for asking about the unwritten rules of a workplace in the interview. This video is in response to several people who asked this in my comments. I've lost track of the comments. I'm sorry. I hope you see this. It's also for people who have had a hard time fitting into different work cultures and finding their work home, and for anybody working in human capital, HR, organizational development, etc., who wants to reap the benefits of a healthy work culture. And oh yeah, business leaders, because y'all kind of make these decisions. Hi, I'm Dr. Anna Kalschmidt. I'm a culture expert and industrial organizational psychologist. I did my dissertation on the unwritten rules of work, and I've been asked how to ask about these in a job interview. The short answer is you're not going to get an honest answer about the unwritten rules in an interview, but you can look at the outcomes. And this is why culture matters, because it's not just something that people just hear, we have a great culture, and they're like, oh, okay. If the culture isn't what you say it is, people know. And that's why I'm being asked questions like this, like how to ask before people even commit to work in your organization. Unwritten rules are the cultural norms of the majority group in the organization. People are not going to be able to tell you in an interview what they are because they are likely members of this group, and they genuinely do not know. Because to them, that's not an unwritten rule, that's just the way things are, and they expect everybody to know these rules. So it's not even from a place of malice all the time, but it's not going to get you the answer you're looking for. But the real culture of an organization, not just what the Facebook page says they're about or what the website says they're about, the real culture that people experience has an impact on the organizational outcomes, and you can ask about those. First, you want to know the outcome of their hiring. You want to know if it's a diverse place to work. Even if you're a white guy, you want to know this. Even though the majority of businesses are run by white guys, if you're in a place with only white guys and you're from a low-income background and they're from maybe Ivy League schools, you're not going to know the same rules as them. And they're not going to know to tell you because you're going to blend in and look like them, and they're going to wonder why you don't know this. You can't see all the diversity metrics in a headshot. Things like disability, social class background, neurodivergence, etc. But go ahead and go to their LinkedIn page, click on people, and see if there's any difference at all. A place that has a lot of difference is going to have fewer unwritten rules if they're retaining people, because people aren't going to all know the same cultural norms. They're not going to know all the same rules, so they're going to have to write some of them down and talk about them in order to thrive. So do some snooping. Look at who works there. Go to their profiles. Is there a difference in public and private schools? Are people from different countries? Do they speak different languages? Things like that. Are they a member of different organizations and maybe affinity groups? This will give you an insight on if they embrace difference. Every single group benefits from diversity. Every single one. Because when there's a monolith, that's when we have more unwritten rules. So if there's a space for many different people with different cultural backgrounds, different norms, there's going to be fewer unwritten rules. Leaders, this is where diversity in your recruiting and hiring methods really matters. 2, ask about their retention. At the end of the interview, when it's your turn to ask questions, you can politely, professionally ask what their retention is like. Tell them, hey, I'm really excited for the opportunity to be considered for this role. I'd really like to work somewhere where I can see myself being for a long time, my work home, so to speak. I'm wondering how much success your organization has had with that. What is your average retention rate? 3, I always ask about what their performance metrics are. And I have rarely gotten a straight answer on this, which business leaders, that's a problem. If they're not transparent in how they evaluate performance, whether it's malicious or not, it's going to be a problem. You're not going to know what they're looking for. It sounds like they don't know what they're looking for, and that makes a lot more room for similarity bias and for unwritten rules to come into play here. Performance evaluation systems are not perfect. As an IO psychologist, I'm trained in how to design them, how to make them job relevant, and how to validate which populations they're accurate for and which ones they might be harming. I'm also trained in how to train supervisors on reducing bias. I have reducing bias in their rating metrics. I have a training I give where I go over 3 simple strategies for reducing bias and reviewing resumes. That being said, performance evaluation systems are not perfect, but if they don't have any at all, it's going to rely on likely nepotism and unwritten rules. One of the worst places I've ever worked for did not have a formal system. I've never seen so many people get fired without feedback, almost always members of underrepresented groups, and nobody knew how to improve their performance, and all the people who got promoted were personal friends of the executives. You want to ask about this, but you don't want to hint that you have performance issues. You can just ask, say at the interview, I really want to be somewhere I can thrive. Performing well is very important to me. How do you measure performance? You should also ask how they hold their managers and supervisors accountable to give regular and fair feedback. Again, you don't want to sound like you have performance issues, so you want to lead into it a little. Highlight that being a good performer is very important to you and that you really seek feedback and love it. Ask how they hold their leaders accountable and how they train their supervisors and invest in their management to know how to give ratings, when to give ratings, and to make sure they're giving fair and frequent feedback. And by fair, I mean also giving it to everyone and not just a few top performers, making sure they're consistently checking in with all members of the team so people have an equal opportunity to thrive. And as many of you probably already do, check their Glassdoor, see what people say when it's anonymous and they're likely not with the company anymore. See what they say about the company when they're not under the pressure and the fear of losing their job. In workplaces with low psychological safety, which is sadly most of them, people can't speak up without getting backlash. And this is a double-edged sword for organizations because that means those leaders, the ones who care, never get a chance to get the feedback that they could have used to address the issue in real time and prevent a bad review and losing an employee, which is expensive. But if the culture is not there to do it, you don't learn till afterwards. So go ahead and learn from the people who've already left before you. Let me know if this is helpful and if you want to see more.